Hello everyone, welcome to the second episode of the Echochamber. This will be somewhat of a bridge episode, covering topics such as the core philosophy behind design decisions and speculations on the fundamental conceptual issues plaguing the game. This episode will be less objective and more opinion-based than the last entry in the podcast series, and will act as a filler episode until the second installment of the Fixing Planetside series is released, which will take a closer look at the air and Vagabond. With that out of the way, I'd like to already announce our guest for today, Charactername, a Planetside 2 veteran of 8 years who himself has had experience with game design and game engine development. And with the introduction complete, I will hand over the word to my co-host, Thur.
First, we'll go over some comments of the last podcast, the last episode, in which some of you guys made some very interesting points, and we want to address those and talk a bit about them. And then we'll do the introduction of our guest, and then we'll talk about the topic of today's podcast.
Yeah, let's start with the first comment then, being from Sensorai. He writes, I think the biggest problem with Maxes at the moment is their presence in Massive Fight. A good Max player in an old TI Alloys type door hold farming on defense makes it practically impossible to breach a room. Even if you somehow kill it with 3 NGs pocketing it, it can be revived in about 5 seconds, which isn't that hard to achieve with 20 plus people holding the same door as well. Warp gate scarcity, so pulling it away from the warp gate, would probably mitigate that issue, at least partially, but it also introduces another issue. As a solo infantry player, the only real deterrent you have against the Liberator camping a base is a dual burster max. Playing around cover or spawn room shields, everything else dies too fast to be any real threat to force one into retreat. Not being able to pull a max means you have to get good at ESF or scare one away otherwise, unless you can maybe get a decent angle from an adjacent base with a Skyguard and damage it enough before it flies over and Daltons you. Well, what's your take on that? How could you fix that?
Well, there are several things addressed in this comment. So the first thing is the problem with maxes in massive fights, right? And holding a door at TILOs, right? We've all been there. Indus starts, the bases open up, and you find yourself in a fight in TILOs with a max. Now, I agree that the pulling maxes being only pullable from the warp gate would solve this partially. But then, when I thought about it a bit more, I think the idea of maxes only on the warp gate is a good idea. But then on the other hand, if you can only transport them in a GAL, then solo max player playing a max as a solo player kind of dies out. But then only big groups can really pull maxes, right? Because they who is gonna pull a max for his homie? Or a gal for his homie to play max. So then you only get big platoons pulling maxes. Right? Because if you can, like, let's say Zergs, right? They go down a lane 70%. They are the only ones that are going to bring maxes because they control everything, because they have so many people. And then you can't do a max crash from the spawn room again to basically go against that. So I think that's a problem that arises from this change. But I find it hard to say what to do in that case, though, if you would change it or not, with this in mind. And then the second part of his comment about a Liberator camping a spawn room. I think, well, if you have a lib pilot, if he's farming ground, right, that it has to at least be a big fight, because otherwise it's not worth farming, because you don't get that many kills unless you're like I don't know, some player that is content with getting 1 KPM and as a spur lib, right? I think if you're in a big fight, enough people nowadays are gonna look up and have a lock-on launch and shoot at that lib. And if there are so many attackers in that hex anyway, then two maxes aren't really gonna do anything because there are already tanks on the hill, multiple ground pounders. So I don't think it's that big of an issue. And the Liberator is also not the big farming machine it used to be 5 years ago. So while it can be annoying, I don't think this is that big of a problem, to be honest. I just don't really see it, to be honest.
I mean, like, I think I'm gonna roll up the comment myself now. Why not? So I think the initial like the first part of the comment is pretty fair. Like, and I think that's a general problem with the idea of a max unit in the first place, right? Like it is a cheesy class from the ground up, and so no amount of change will ever elevate the cheese, right? But you can limit it and make it like, you know, codependent on other parts of the game to make it, you know, to balance it that way.
Yeah.
And I do think. So what you said there, I wouldn't exactly subscribe to that, because
I'm just not sure, like, right? That's the
but look, it requires like actual setup, and you need to like transport them from base A to base B, right? Unless they get like, you know, foot zerged and destroyed. And so I don't think Zerg Russ, for example, is a reasonable example of an outfit that would pull it up. It would be more like a midfit or so, right? And I think at that point it encourages these smaller outfits or medium outfits to actually, you know, pull maxes against each other and do this combined arms operations, you know, like, because it's just so worth it, right? And so I don't think that the super Zerg surfing max, like, it will probably still exist. You can probably still make it work, but it's not going to be as optimal, especially for prime time, right? Because you spend like 5 minutes getting your max on the front line, and then you get C4'd, and then you don't get rest, and then that's it. Right, and you just spend like, it's just not efficient.
It does promote team play. That's true. Yeah.
Right. And so I would say, I would say that like it can't be like Giga Zerg abused in the way we explained it. I think because it needs coordination. Like a Zerg, we'll talk about this later in the episode. A Zerg is something organic that kind of forms spontaneously, and it's not like, you know, coordinated by some mastermind tactician. No matter how much role players will tell you that.
That's also true.
And so, and the other part about the Liberator, I actually disagree with you on that. I think the Liberator is maybe one of the best, like, or one of the most busted vehicles in the game. But the issue that Sensorai describes only happens, right? Like, so you basically use the max as a band-aid solution for the Liberator problem, right? And I would say to that you know, maybe tune in next episode when we're going to talk about vehicle balance, right? Because that sounds like a problem with the Liberator, and fundamentally I don't think the max should be the band-aid solution to it. And so that's my response to the later part. All right.
He said one thing about, I think, did he say something about maxes being revived?
Yes.
No, he just said it about being revived, but like, right, there are people that say like it shouldn't be possible to revive maxes, but we already addressed that, I think, last episode. Right? Yeah.
You can just like disagree on that, on like, you know, why that's unhealthy for the game, but that's okay. You know, you can have a different opinion on that.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. Well, the next comment then, right? So Ashen had something to say as well. A few opinions I have that I don't think you touched on. So his first point, I don't think motion spotters have any place in this game, or at least not in the place and forget state they're currently in. This is made particularly bad by them being available to the one-shot invisible class, the class Schmidi likes to play. His second point, the game needs to be balanced around the abhorrent server tick rate. Leading on from this, Infiltrator needs a longer delay on uncloak before shooting to make it so people can actually react before being bolted / one-framed by an SMG. Right? The problem he describes is that because of the tick rate problems and with the servers, it can take a while to uncloak on the other person's screen, and then you're already dead. when he shoots really quickly, right? Another point, people say Nanoweave removal massively buffed LA, but I completely disagree. The one-shot or be one-shotted gameplay is extremely cancer and was a massive nerf to live LA gameplay and class enjoyment. I would trade anything to have the tankiness of Nanoweave back on LAs. Semi-auto scouts or semi-autos or scouts are in a really ridiculous state where they require very little skill to get kills on and are way too effective in CQC, considering how strong they are on medium/long range. This is again a product of Nanoweave. So should we first touch on those points and then do the weapon stuff?
I would. Can I answer to it first?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's keep the motion spotter for the end. I think. Okay. So the shotgun part. And in general, like also what you talked about the LA, that's a full-on agree on my part.
Yeah. Same for me.
Like that, yes. And we have also, I think, explained pretty well in the first episode why, like lower time to kill in a game like this is actually problematic in combination with the low tick rate and latency issues, because you just like have less choices matter. Right, like your choice matters less because you die too quickly. You can't wiggle around the corner anymore. And in this game, this isn't like a misplay, right? Like in normal shooters, you could say, oh, positional awareness or whatnot, right? But in Planetside, there is only like sometimes there's only so much you can do, and then it's better to be more lenient towards the player than towards the game mechanic. And so, yeah. So that one, the semi-auto part, I legit myself, I purposefully didn't include them in the first episode because I figured that most people watch the first episode, and it's also that I'm like unironically terrified of the exposure because I'll say it here, like you can two-shot kill any class under 10 meters with any of the scout rifles, with like any battle rifle. And right now, time to kill with them is so ridiculously low that they're just busted. They're completely busted. They're the best choice, long and mid-range, and if it weren't for shotguns being completely the way they are, they would maybe be one of the best close-range options as well. And you can also stack assimilate procs with it like crazy. It's just not fair. They're super, super strong. They're not like competitively viable like shotguns are for outfit wars because of the nature of the gameplay, right? But because you just can't win a res war with it. But for live farming, they are insane right now.
Passively sitting, just doing stuff. And also the fact that you say how the fact that you say something about shotguns being meta or that good in itself, the fact that even that sentence can be said about the game is just such a massive red flag about how the infantry, what a dire situation the infantry game is right now. Is amazing to me, to be honest, in a bad way.
Do you have anything more to add then, like apart from the motion sensor, which
well, I would talk about the motion sensor because I think it's a problem as well.
I think we will all talk about motion sensor. So how about or anything else?
Okay, so the remaining points Ashen makes about the weapons, so the NS pistols and also the Newton. We'll make a future episode where we go into detail about weapon balance and the weapons overall. So it's less about the classes, more about the weapons, and then we'll also get back to your points about those things, and we'll talk about it. Okay.
I would say like we can still give a brief answer. New is just not okay the way it is. And I like, so when it comes to comic crutching and all of that kind of stuff, right? Like the how efficient especially those pistols are in close range, I actually don't mind the dynamic too much like I think it's a interesting choice. If like let's say you're heavy and there's people rushing you, it's more efficient to swap to your like revolver if it's like less than 2 targets, less than 3 targets, right? Like and so I like the idea that thing is okay on live server. It's just the only issues that the other pistols just suck. Like TR pistols are okay. Like the Desperado is okay as well, but apart from that, all other faction weapons are just kind of ass. And so that's really the problem with it, like I would say. But yeah, we should definitely make a episode about it. Let's talk about the motion spotter then. No, like Ashen. No, go ahead. What do you think about what Ashen writes about the motion spotter?
Yeah, so I was thinking about that, about his comment for a bit. And now, last episode we talked about the cloaking and the infiltrator in general, about all the classes, right? And we didn't really talk about the motion spotter, I think. But I got an idea. What if because now the infill is basically you can cloak and you can also reveal people on the minimap. So you can cloak, you can one-shot, and you can predict where people are going because you can just look at the map. So the game does it for you. Now, what if you would take the motion spotter or the darts out of the utility slot? Utility, right?
Yeah,
so it's called
the suit. Yeah, no, it's not the suit slot.
So utility. Okay. So what if you would take the motion spotter and the bolt out of the utility, and then put them in, or out of the utility slot and put them in the ability. So then you can choose between having a cloak and a spotting ability. Now the infill then can fulfill 2 roles, right? One is that you are the infill and you're less visible and stuff, and the other role is you allow people around you and yourself to see people on the map, and it's not as stacked in many departments as it currently is. And then I would also say, well, this was one of my points before we made the first episode. Have the cloak work as a sort of cooldown in relation to your bolt as well. So you're shooting. So now your cloak currently has a cooldown, right? So if you press it, heats up, and then you uncloak, and then it goes down. So you have to time it right. Now, what if also the weapon has a cooldown mechanic where if you cloak, the weapon heats up basically, and then if you uncloak, you have to wait for your weapon to be able to fire basically. Now, this would the infill then has to think about when to cloak, also from the perspective of when am I gonna shoot, and not only when am I gonna run out of cloak or that kind of stuff. So I think on the one hand, as Schmidty told me, that can lead to kind of weird situations where it's not as intuitive or fluent, the gameplay, because you have to wait all the time for your ball to be able to shoot. But on the other hand, I think then the problem of uncloaking and being able to shoot is addressed in a good way. And now the solution you propose, Schmidty, also kind of does that, but yeah, I'm not sure. Right? Yeah, I'm not. Like, it's difficult.
You
I think.
You still have a cooldown. I think like you still have a cooldown because you still need to get your weapon out, right? It just doesn't feel as bad, right? Because imagine you uncloak and then you can't shoot. Like you can ADS and it's like then you die.
Yeah, okay, but then how long? Because if it's the same way as pulling out a weapon, is that a bit too short then?
No, because the sniper rifles take quite a long time to take out, and so you take away your invisible thing, and then you take out your sniper, and that just takes a while. And you also give away like an audio cue when you decloak, right? So
yeah, well, that is true, but I think most people are too bad to really
but any
recognize
person
it.
with a brain, no. I disagree.
I mean, that's also
Any
not really
person
an
with a brain
argument, though,
understands it.
right?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
no matter if the good player plays a bolt or a heavy, if he goes against like some real bad player, he's gonna kill him anyway.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So
yeah, that's okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think like for me, at least on my part, so I kind of have to roll this up a bit because I fundamentally agree that motion spotters in their current iteration are complete bullshit because they are essentially, they provide free value. Like it's a deploy, forget, and insane value. You basically get free wall hacks, and it also completely negates flanks. And I talked about this with Character before the podcast as well, because I really think that just has to go because it limits a lot of like play styles. It's just that in the fixing the infantry episode, it was really hard to propose changes that I felt like were too out of the water, right? Like you can't really expect like in an ideal world, right? I would make it so that the infiltrator can't go invisible, and their ability is that they give squad members around them, they become invisible on the minimap even when they shoot, and they're also immune to motion sensors, right? That's their ability.
That's a good
and it's
idea,
only to squad members. Yeah, but where it gets even better. And then on big bases or on select bases, you have antennas. And if the infiltrator hacks the antenna, you get like a tick of motion spot, basically, like on the base, like every 5 seconds or every 10 seconds in an interval. And then the infiltrator has like a secondary objective to like sabotage and do his
actual infiltrating, right?
Yeah,
what's the class is called? Yeah,
the whole team benefits, and you can use his ability to flank with your squad.
Yeah,
right. And so that would be. That just would be very good, I think. But the thing is that I don't think that's a change that will get picked up on. Like, I think that conceptually that's a great change.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's something they can realistically want to do. Like,
it's a bigger change. It needs much more needs to be done to get that in the game.
Not that much if you think about it.
Okay, it's basically a generator, right? The antenna. It's just a gen.
The A7, the whole collect A7 on the consoles, right? You could make it like that, and the ability is like basically avoidance and sensor shield, no? And then it's like you only. I mean, I don't know if the infrastructure is there to make it only for squad members. I don't know about that, but that would be great. I think that would be genuinely cool, because then you right now the infiltrator is like a pure solo class, apart from the motion spotter, which is super unfun and not fair. And so it's like, and it's also that like every infiltrator can put down a motion spotter. It's so dumb. Like you in big fights, like there is really almost no way you can flank without avoidance, and limiting like such a fundamental gameplay technique to like an implant is just not healthy for the game. Okay, and I guess with that we've rounded up most of the comments, and knowing that my good friend Character has a lot to say about the changes we just proposed, I happily introduce him. He himself has at least partially studied game design as well as part of his university courses, and is somewhat experienced and can thus bring another angle to our ideas. So we have invited him for this episode to talk about fundamental core philosophy, design decisions about Planetside, and how we think that the devs are thinking, basically. And so Character is basically as good as a stand-in as it gets, and so welcome you. Hello.
Hello. I guess I also want to add on. I've kind of worked on some indie games before. It didn't get to release, unfortunately, but I've worked on writing a game engine as well as a sort of hobby thing I do. I've ended up restarting so many times, but each time's a learning experience, and there's a lot of fun in doing stuff like that. So I also kind of want to comment on some things maybe related to that in a little bit. But yeah, thanks for introducing me. And I suppose the first thing I sort of want to jump on on is the discussion you guys were having about maxes, because I think that's the first one where I was like kind of agreeing with Thel's point, where it's if you're playing against a Zerg and the Zerg has the maxes, you can't pull them from the defender. But I actually gonna fundamentally disagree almost here. I'm gonna come in and say that I think it almost promotes that just the way the attackers can come in and drop the maxes from a galaxy, the defenders can as well. Like an outfit, generally when you see a max crash on the live server, it's from somebody's doing ops and they call for a max crash and it comes from the spawn room. I don't think it's much of a difference for them to make the call for a max crash and instead have it come from the warp gate or, and this is the one where I want to jump in and make changes, construction bases. We've seen this sort of soft reset in a way of what construction is, with the movement away from pain fields and automated turrets, which I think made construction unenjoyable to interact with. And I think this gives us an opportunity both to put a bit more value into the power budget of construction that's been taken away, but also to try and integrate it into the core gameplay loop a bit more as well, now that it's slightly more healthy to interact with. And so I'm almost going to come out here and propose this like idea of, say, a max terminal on the construction, where it shows up on the map kind of like Hives did, and so you're not just getting camped on your warp gate necessarily, but there's also forward warp gates, these, which is what construction was sort of spoken about as by the developers in an interview. So outfits can go to a construction site base or a warp gate, and they can pull their max crash and max crash, you know, the 3 EPG overpop or whatever scenario it is, because they are the guys doing max crashes. And yeah, I like that. I also kind of want to comment a bit on the point of like maxes doing the door hold and the big fight and stuff like that, where it's, unfortunately, I think the design of maxes currently doesn't reward the role that people want them to be doing, which is pushing, because a lot of the supposed counters to maxes, which is like the 3 decimators, because most run ordnance, or C4 or tank mines, all of it requires that the max pushes. So pushing your max to break a stalemate, to break a point hold or whatever, is a lot weaker than playing your max defensively and staying further back, right? Because if you're not near doors and windows, you're not going to get C4'd. If you're not pushing, you're not going to step on a tank mine before somebody else does. And the desis, as long as you're playing, you know, a bit more close to mid-range instead of just in your face, you can usually avoid the desis, or your engineer's going to out-repair them. And if you die, you know, you're further back, you're inside the big group of friendly players, and it's really a problem in big fights, right? And you get revived and repaired within 5 seconds, and there's no punishment to even making the misplay of managing to die on a max suit. So I think fundamentally that kind of has to change. And I don't think Orbitals are a healthy band-aid solution to this kind of defensive max, where somebody right-clicks the map to remove it, because, you know, the Orbital doesn't kill the medic and the engineer. So you kill the max, but your outfit resources are gone, and he gets revived and repaired, and it's not great. And your guys can't push in, because the Orbital damages and knocks them away too. So it just becomes this sort of 30-second delay on the fight, where it pauses, and it's like, okay, here comes the Orbital, and then you go back to playing the game.
The Orbital suffers like kind of similarly to how, like, you know, the hash lightnings or whatnot, like Overpop do, where they're like annoying, but they're also really meaningless.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah. Or like really, I don't know. Like it depends who's holding the point as well. But yeah, generally, yeah, I agree.
I think
and part of, sorry, yeah, you go.
I think the thing is about what we're talking about right now. I think these changes in the gameplay or in the game need to be made with the game fundamentals in mind. I think it needs to come from the gameplay and not from the orbital strike or the construction or things outside of what people normally play. So the making construction more as a support to playing the game and not just sitting in your base is a good thing. Right, the orbital strike against maxes is just, as Schmidty said, a right click on the map, and that's a break to the fight for 30 seconds. And it needs to, the developers need to incentivize actually playing the game and making changes that you know, you need to make the game good. And don't put your dev time in stuff that will take away from the experience and make people sit in their bases and not doing anything. It needs to all work around what the game is about, and I think that's what the devs need to focus on.
Yeah, and I actually kind of want to jump in again. I'm going to be a bit harsh here, but I think Orbitals themselves, fundamentally, if they're supposed to be the counters to the max, they failed at that. If they're supposed to be a flashy spectacle, I suppose they are, but it causes this huge downtime in the fight pace that can be frustrating for a lot of players. And additionally, I think construction players suffer because of Orbitals, because it's like, if we do this max thing and we try and put utility into construction and integrate it into the game, then Orbitals suddenly being able to just, you right-click the base and it's gone, is a huge problem. So I almost unironically believe that at this point, Orbitals almost need to be just, or at least the outfit asset as Orbital Strikes needs to just be removed. I think it's quite unhealthy. And maybe construction orbitals can stay because there are those constraints on it and it shows on the map it's really visible, but I dislike the outfit one, and especially the way it's like stored up over weeks and only a tiny vanishing fraction of the player base, which is like the 1% of people who are successful and build an outfit in community. I think it's quite unhealthy.
Also, the ones that aren't successful and then just have like a big outfit, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like the Zerg fit. It's just like, should this thing really just be a toy of Zerg fit leaders, and then it's not really anything in the game for anybody else? Yeah, that's and Rel's almost spoken about it as well, right? Where he's sort of questioned, certainly Bastion's, but to a lesser extent in his tweets recently, he kind of said. Showed his own doubts, perhaps, on the game design of Orbitals as it was done in the time it was released. Yeah, I don't know if you want to jump in and accelerate, or if we can just sort of keep going here. Is there any counterpoints?
No, I mean, I thought about the maxes being able to be pulled from construction because you told me about it like a day or two ago. And it's like, I had to kind of disagree a little bit. Because I was like, the warp gate as like a logistics hub kind of balances out the faction borders. But then you made a really good point about, that if a faction gets double teamed after it initiates the alert, right, then it should have like forward bases to pull maxes from to make defending easier. And so it's like, I think that's fair. I think so. Actually, I don't disagree too much with that sentiment.
Yeah, you can balance it around population, right? Or how much territory you have. So if you have if you're on the defense, you get double teamed basically, right? You have more opportunities to make bases to pull maxes. You could do that.
Yeah, sorry,
more copium around.
No, I want to jump something. You know how the Hive had this really big exclusion zone? So like once one was placed, you had to move elsewhere on the map to build another. And so it almost became the number of the Hives placed was self-balanced by how much territory you owned. So I think doing the exact same thing with these max terminals where it's like there's an exclusion zone where you can't build multiple. Because otherwise every single player would like make a construction base with a max terminal right next to each other, and they'd be like, this is where I get my maxes from, right? I don't think we want that. Yeah.
And for people listening that are not familiar with the exclusion zone, it's kind of like when you deploy a Sandy and you can't deploy a Sandy like closer to it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like a no deploy zone for bases, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or for the max terminal, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I'll maybe it's your role as a host, but I'm going to try and move things on a little bit. Yeah, I think we sort of covered that comprehensively. Is I want to disagree with you on the suggested, and that's both of you, by the way. You had two different ideas of going about it. One was the like artificial delay, and the other was like move it to an equip time delay. I want to make the point instead that perhaps let's reframe it entirely and look at the identities of the two classes. I'm going to suggest this change of the bolt and the classes that have it. So I'm going to say the identity of the Infiltrator class, right? You've got the hacking, you've got the invisibility, you've got the maybe the motion sensors, which you guys say are unhealthy, and I'm inclined to agree. But this is very much, if you think about it, like it gives off the feeling and the maybe the law, the codex entry, of being a forwards class that's kind of operating in your backlines and running around and being quite aggressive. And it is very much this like solo players class. I don't know how bolting, which is like the idea being this longer range thing, in theory it's a sniper rifle, really fits to that, whereas the engineer class, which is a much more defensive class, and hey, it doesn't have the cloak, it's more likely to be healthy with the sniper rifle. You don't have these like invisibility and then one frame interactions, and you still have players who want to play bolts can move to the engineer class. And It's not a huge departure from what you do on the infil class, perhaps, but it doesn't have the unhealthy aspects to it. And it fits the identity of the engineer class, which, like I said, is and Schmitty said as well, which is like the point hold class, where you're like more static and you're on a reinforced position, you're staying a bit back and a bit more defensive. It's like, well, why don't we chuck the bolt on top of that? And it's the class that, instead of having a combat ability, has the weapon choice, which I think is almost what the ASP for engineers is, where it's like, you can ASP the shotgun secondary, you can ASP the LMG primary. It's like, well, why not say... there's also the free choice, which is like you're the class that has the shotguns and the snipers too. Yeah, that's my comment.
Well, I mean,
I kind of like that.
I know Schmitty does. Yeah,
I mean, I disagree with it a little bit because, like, okay, so right, you pose the rhetorical why not? Well, I think that the reason it shouldn't happen is because I would much rather have the infill, like, flank from long range than have an engineer shoot through a doorway with a bolt, right? Like, that seems like a healthier gameplay loop overall. It's just that, especially the close range bolts in particular, have become kind of like an abomination to the class, because, like, why do I take a SMG if I can just win the 1v1 automatically instead, right? And so in that aspect, I think the close range bolting is like a problem. And like the sniper people, yeah, sure, let them kind of do what they want. But I don't think the engineer, like, I purposefully put the shotguns on the engineer exclusively because I wanted them to be the point hold class, but I didn't want them to like spam out of the point and like, just like cringe on people. They have to be kind of like the last line of defense. They can use their mana turret and stuff, right? That's like very conditional to shoot like out or whatnot, but they're mainly like supporting, and if something comes too close, they yeet it, right? And they also place the mines and the deployables, and it creates this like, where like, let's say there's like a hard light barrier, the heavy that's pushing the point or the max has to jump over and gets punished with cone of fire, and then you can shotgun blast him, right? And this is what makes it like so strong, right? And if he's like encouraged to like build a smart light barrier and then like head glitch with a bolt, that would just be like really annoying to deal with. I prefer the bolt be like a long range flank thing, but I like, again, like I've said when we talked about the motion spotter part, what do you think of the idea that motion spotters are antennas that you hack, and the infiltrator abilities that you can like map cloak your squad?
Yeah, I was hoping that one would come up almost after I was introduced, because I did want to talk about it. It's very exciting. I really like it. I think it works particularly as well because when you think of a lot of the bases of the map, most of them do have these antenna objects placed in them. Like, it's a really frequent asset we see in the game is that big antenna, and it's like, well, hell, why not? And you also mentioned we've already got stuff like the A7 terminals, or the I can't remember what the other one was that Thel brought up. The hacking mechanic already, I suppose.
Just a generator.
Just the generator, right? But there's also the examples of, like, on Amrish there was the bridge terminals. On Oshur there's like this
Hayoka
terminals. On some of the
Hayoka chemical
Esamir ones as well. Yeah, it's like the shield somebody has that hackable thing or terminal, and also the containment sites with the like storm generator thing. You can go to that and interact with it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Let's not talk about it.
Absolutely, but the technology is absolutely in the game. I think for this like hackable big motion sensor, and it removes the problem of this like 10 players all having this insanely valuable map hack thing that isn't really a gameplay loop. There isn't much gameplay there. Whereas if you turn into this,
and you win.
Whereas it turns into instead being something like it's an objective. There's emergent gameplay here, which is what Planetside is. Like, player-driven gameplay is the identity of Planetside, right? And or not necessarily the identity, but it's like one of the big.
I would sign that. Don't relativize it. I like that. It's true.
And finally, it ties into the idea of the infiltrator class, like thematically, where it's you're infiltrating. Thel said it, of course. I'm gonna knuckle down on my cool argument. I'm gonna bias the audience. My cool argument for having the sniper on the engineer. I think the solutions proposed with the equip time and then your cloak disables once you start equipping. It's like these delays have a lot of room to feel very irritating and clunky for players. Yeah. I go to the example, and it's maybe a bit of a bad one because it's from a different game, but the example of there was the Rengar rework in League of Legends where they put this big delay onto the cast of his third ability, the Bogaloo, which was like a thrown skill shot. It was like it had a 0.25 second delay. It seemed like nothing, but it was very noticeable and it felt very bad for players at that time, which was like 6 years ago now.
Can I interject?
And it caused controversy. Whereas if it's on the engineer class, there isn't that delay. And sure, okay, you go ahead.
Yeah, because you can actually at the moment in the game you can actually replicate how a delay would feel if you have bad ping, because uncloaking is server side, and so if you have bad ping and you uncloak, like sometimes you just can't shoot or you can't recloak.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Oh,
yeah, and so that feels horrible. I agree, and that's
horrible.
why I wanted
right,
to
exactly.
If
it's unequipable, there's the animation, right? In your argument,
exactly,
the animation itself gives a sense of motion and transition.
It's still painful,
and a visual cue, but it's still painful. And also, I think what maybe isn't considered with having it as an equipable is you swap back to the sniper, your cloak breaks because you're not equipped, and you have the equipped animation of the sniper, which is fairly long, but then you also have to zoom in before you take the shot. So that's a longer delay than perhaps is immediately realized.
But character, do you think then, if like, because I thought about, the more I think about it, right, I just came up with this kind of spontaneously, but like, let's say the changes I proposed just now, right, that the antennas are hackable and that the infiltrator cloaks people. No, is that worth revisiting on the fixing the infantry? Because
I absolutely think that, because
But how would they do the cloaking on the map? Is there a system in the game for that? Because I feel like that
what
just
do you mean
might be.
Cloaking on the map? Oh, that one.
Like
that
squad mates?
Kind of novel, right? With the squad mates. That's the thing. I think from the facility.
I think it could be done, right? Because on Sundays you have. Right? Deployed Sundays, people are cloaked when you're inside the bubble.
It cloaks people. I don't know if that stops the map showing on the.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
But Sensor Shield has some kind of flag, right? There's some flag for Sensor Shield that says like these guys don't show up to motion sensors.
And then you can say like if in radius and
if the infiltrator has a ability and it gives you this like temporary buff, like you see with Firestorm gives you that like buff, then you can say this buff means you don't get spotted by motion sensor. I think it is very possible.
It could be doable.
Maybe it's worth mentioning. I think doable, absolutely doable.
Because you have a motion spotter, right? The motion spotter does basically the opposite thing. So then couldn't there also be a thing that does the opposite, right?
I really
would make sense, I think.
But the one I really do want to see on fixing Planetside is where you talk about that hackable base having that antenna that things, and there's like the proximity spotting radar on Valkyries, Galaxies, and is it Sun?
The flash,
which spots people around you, and the flash, right? Yeah. So it's like they just take the effect from that and move it to this hackable terminal, just make it a bit bigger, right? So
but I would like to make it in intervals. I would like to make it like
not constantly.
Instead of being a motion device, it's a recon dart or whatever. It's a slightly different effect, but it's just the principles are there in the idea. I like that. Okay, cool.
And then it's also right the whole spotting thing. Actually, you have to. The class, the name of the class and the class's playstyle is used to do what it does now, but without now you can just do it by playing as like a normal guy, and then you actually have to fulfill your role as a class to be of value to your team. The same way that maxes can be used in our proposed change. So. Yeah, I would say that's
the class more flavor. Like I think that's
my class identity, right?
Yeah, exactly. This comes kind of back of the core idea of the points that we wanted to make. No, it's like we don't want like stuff. I think it was we also got a comment about this on the last episode that the essentially that the way we approach these things is that necessarily the game doesn't need to be like esports ready balanced or something, but it needs to be fun, and it gets fun through engaging gameplay. Like if your choices matters and your and not only that, but also that it feels meaningful to do your job. And right now for some classes it kind of doesn't. Like what's your job as an infiltrator? When is the last time, like I'm talking to a normal player now and not to like some role play individual.
No.
When was the last time you like backdropped on a base as an infiltrator and hacked stuff apart from you are doing ops and you just want to pull a stealth Sunday? There's legit
White camo directive 3 years ago or 4 years ago. That's it. That's really it.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, and it's like, why not make it like actually meaningful? Like, and you know, make a secondary objective, and only infiltrators can interact with it, right? It's hacking, like the antenna, right? That would only be hackable. So you need to get your infilts in there, and you know, and you can hack it back. So there's gonna be like a little infiltrator stealth war with EMP nades, like happening at the antenna.
This episode is just for Schmitty to have a meaningful gameplay experience,
Please
guys.
make my class useful, man. It sucks right now because all you can do is like, all you can do is like bolt and SMG info. But if you're not Frank Might, you're just cringe if you do it.
Or your neighbor hacks her, you know, and then you just sit in the corner until you get your 0.5 kpm precedent gameplay or blackhand. But I think we should move it a bit forward to the game design or development perspective, because that's actually what the episode is about, right?
But it touches on that, right?
That's true. That's true.
Meaningful. And so it's like, what do you think, character? How has the game like moved along the years? What do you think? Hiding behind this?
Trying to peel back the curtain a little bit. I think there's a big overarching forwards and backwards balance between the play styles and gameplay loops and feedback loops that reward creating fights versus the gameplay and feedback loops that reward killing fights. I think it's a lot more fun to say, ambush a jump jet in with your C4 into a Sunday garage and try and kill the Sunday. That is enjoyable. Maybe you don't appreciate the people who do that, but they are having fun doing it, right? And it's the same with the NGs who run in with the tank mines. There is some exciting thing about running into 100 guys and getting away with it, succeeding in killing the Sunday.
Yeah, for sure.
And you need to be able to kill Sunderers too, I'm going to make the point, because with outfit ops and like having the map ability to flow, it's necessary that fights do end, that fights do die. So that's part of the defense for, but I think the side of creating fights is a bit too weak at the moment in comparison. The balance is too skewed towards killing the fights, and the devs know this. I'm not saying this like I've made some great discovery. The developers are very aware of this. You only need to look at the changes that have been happening gradually over the years, and I think maybe part of why the community feels that the devs aren't listening is they have to make subtle changes because they don't want to go to the extreme end, which is like Biolabs of the Heart Spawn, where there was no map mobility, or maybe containment sites now on Esamir, but they have made changes. So I'm going to list these. I want to try and like rattle them off and say that I think this is a coordinated effort. So they reworked the beacon placement from being like only the squad leader with the /squad promote me command. They moved it to everyone in the squad can place the beacon, but it still had the longer cooldown. And then they made another change after that, which was much more recent, but it was like, we're going to really reduce the cooldown on using the beacons. And I think these changes were like the outfits and the squads can go in and they'll keep themselves going without a Sunderer. They sort of create fights by having the spawn beacon there. And I think that's quite cool, but the spawn beacon is a bit too squishy, so it didn't work as effectively as it perhaps could have. And then they brought back deployable galaxies. This is like another thing where it was like, you can create fights. Maybe driving the Sunderer is unenjoyable. We'll give you a different way to set up a spawn, which is a deployable galaxy. But I think the no deploy zone is a bit too big, and if you took it away, it would be terrible. You'd have like galaxies just deploying on the main
on
point.
top of the building.
So I think it doesn't quite exactly right on top of the building. So I think that one doesn't quite work. Just in the same way as you don't really want to spawn on a Sunderer that's really far away from the base, because that's not enjoyable for the infantry players. So in the end, I think you guys really hit on the idealized solution, because the current one they're going for, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, it could be really good for some of the bases that are less fun to play, is the Sunday garages. Name your top 5 bases you want to have a Sunday garage on. That was a tweet by Ralph fairly recently, right? And there was the experiment with Sunday garages on Oshur and Esamir. I think that was like the test. How does it work on live server? And now is the rollout. But there's hundreds of bases in the game. We've got 4, 5 continents now. The game is massive, and there's so many bases. You can't realistically expect to go through all of the bases one by one, putting in Sunday garages or what have you. So I think your suggested solution from last episode, where you said give the Sunderers a shield, that works. That is a good idea, because in every single fight there's a Sunderer. The Sunderer has the change, so it's a wide scale systemic change, and it's not like. You don't want to go too far, of course, because you still want the guys doing ops to be able to kill the long fight draining pop. You still want the people who have fun killing Sundays, like. you don't really want to kill that playstyle completely, right? So you don't want the Sandy to be unkillable, but you want to make it harder. You want to make it harder for them.
But it's
Well,
also like
especially for one guy, right?
One guy.
So if you have like
exactly.
small, enjoyable fights, there's always this one guy that thinks I'm doing the objective, and he goes
Oniba,
specifically
Nagana,
to
etc.
on his own. He pulls the lightning and kills the Sandy, and we need to make it harder for those people to kill Sandys, right? It's obviously
think,
fine
yeah,
if you're doing ops, but that's fine. But those single
There's
guys,
also enough DPS, right? Like this is the
Yeah.
the main, like the Sandy change we propose is kind of self-regulating because it doesn't work in Zergs, and it also like there's like always enough DPS around if you actually push the Sandy, right?
Yeah.
It now
Yeah,
just can't get sniped. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think like I kind of want to roll it back a little bit because you said like it's kind of like a straw man argument that the good players don't want fights to end, right? Like in like somewhat of or I don't know, maybe some good players actually think that way. But
I will say I was one of those players who was that way. I think this is for the longest time it was. I really enjoyed Biolabs with hard spawns. Objectively, it probably wasn't healthy for Planetside. The map wouldn't really move, and your pop would get vacuumed in. And so the guys who wanted to do ops or play alerts, they couldn't do anything, right? The game, that part of the game, sort of died with the Biolab hard spawns almost. But what it did give you was it gave you really high-paced gameplay, and it was really consistent. There was always a fight. The fight was always there. If you look at Esamir now, and I think this is probably why Thel kind of shits on Esamir, and why I and many others also sort of disapprove of the way Oshur's average fight quality is there's a lot of downtime on fights. Now, if they succeed in tweaking this balance between the creating fights loop and the ending fights loop, I think that'll be reduced, that problem, and so maybe Esamir would be more fun to play. But
I also think like looking at it like from a binary might not be optimal as well. So like like ending and starting fights, but I think the gameplay loop that needs to be expanded upon is the like in between, right? No, not the in between, like the between starting the fight,
balancing seesaw act, the sliding
ending.
scale, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I want to give kudos to the devs. I've sort of already repeated this sentence, but they know this. They've analyzed this, and they are working to address it. It's quite subtle, but I hope I give people a bit of a white pill who are quite maybe despondent about the uptime on fights and think that we're forever going to be stuck in the hell of like Esamir and Oshur never having fights up. The fights you're always just staring at the map, waiting for one to start. Well, yeah, hopefully they get that balance right, and there is more uptime on fights.
But I think
wait. Look, the thing about I understand that you say like the devs understand it, but the Esamir problem, and here I come again, okay. The Esamir problem of not having fights is a problem that the devs created because they killed all those bases that were enjoyable to fight on and replaced them with first of all, less bases in total, and then also bases which are very, very badly designed. This is not to shit on the devs. You can all go and watch Doc P's videos where he reviews the new bases, and you can just think about it for 3 seconds, and you can see that some of those bases are just absolutely terrible, right? And that's like, it's all nice that the devs recognize it, but they need to recognize their own mistakes. And if the community tells them, hey, and I don't mean the Zerglings that don't have a clue about the game. I mean the people that have played for multiple thousands of hours and competently, I must add, when they give feedback and say, okay, this is not what we want. We want, right, the old stuff is just playing better. Then they need to listen and stop with their changes before they create their own problems, because it also takes time away from other things that they could fix or can address.
But think about it this way, though, it's like I agree with the general sentiment that it needs to be listened to, etc. But for example, when it comes to Oshur, I know that Doc P provided like feedback for some of the bases, and there was more cover added to the bases as well.
But Oshur is another problem than Esamir, I think. It's a different...
for sure. But in concept, right? Like I do think that the real issue with these things and the way they're changed comes from a like almost a philosophical idea And so that's that you can fix the game's problems by adjusting it on a macro perspective, like, like, oh, you just like it's base design, it's how the map flows, etc. But I personally think that is wrong. I think that the fundamental problem with the game is from the ground up, right? Like, this is why the first episode proposes infantry changes, because it builds on that, right? Let's say every class can do their role better, right? Like the infiltrator changes we just talked about, or also the engineered weapon restrictions, etc. Right? Means you have more engineers on point. Point holds are easier, and also defending your Sunday is easier, right? Because the engineer has like exclusive access to a shotgun. You can't just ambush a jump jet into the Sunday, shotgun the NG and C4 the Sunday, and then the fight's over, right? No. You ambush a jump jet, and the NG just swaps you out of the air, And so I think that alone fixes a lot. Think about it, right? What really has changed, from 2 years back? Why are fights like either you snowball to the enemy Sunday and you win, or you snowball to the enemy base and you spawn lock? There is not much in between, except for a few bases that encourage that like hard force it, right? And my answer is like the fight's gotten too quick, right? Everybody kills each other way too quickly, and so and this is why I think they need to be fixed from the ground up. And this is why I agree with Thel. Sure, they see the problem, but the way they want to address it is coming from the same place that gave us the problems in the first place.
I'm going to sort of jump in and I suppose move this on to another point I wanted to make, coming off of I feel in the last 2 years that fights have gotten so much shorter. Whatever. I'm going to say it's been a more gradual thing for a longer time period than that. And to wrap this up, I'm going to comprehensively communicate this, I'm going to need to talk about something a bit off-center, which is, I don't think Zergs are a bad thing. This is going to be crazy. Like, if we go for it from the game design, I think you can't treat Zergs necessarily themselves, their existence, as a problem, because they are inherently part of the game. It is the Zerg is the most optimum realization of the supreme Planetside playstyle. It is, if the game is balanced asymmetrically, then just having everything in one place means you have no counter except for the other team to pull more of everything. That's like why it happens, and I don't think you can get rid of that. That's just a product of the game being what it is. But Zergs have benefits. I'm going to bring up the benefits now, which is a Zerg moves the lattice through just being what it is at the start of the continent. Sorry. You see new bases. There was a heat map done, I suppose this was years ago now, but somebody did a heat map of like point contests on Indar, and it was all of the bases right at the front line was where 90% of the playtime was, and the bases deeper in, and the bases deeper in might actually be good ones, but you just never get to play at them, right? So a Zerg moves the lattice to new places, and it gives you new experiences, and it accelerates the map state. So those are the benefits, right? The problem is, like, bases where you get to stop the Zerg in place for long enough with a huge defender bias and a long cap time. I'm thinking 3-point amp stations, tower defenses with the point inside, and maybe it was sort of bylaws with hard spawners. Those bases, a Zerg can roll down a lane and then hit those, and that's where your defender bias, and there's so much room for flanking and smart play. It stops the Zerg for long enough that other fights end on the map and people redeploy in, and the pop reaches parity and then turns in the other direction. I think the way they removed so many tower defenses with the point inside from maybe Indar doesn't quite have this, but other continents.
Old Snowshoe.
Problematic.
Oh.
Yeah. And if we, yeah. And I think Oshur almost is an example of the opposite. I'm going to sort of jump in on the problems that Oshur is. If the ultimate way of like treating the problem of Zerg is like you say, okay, you can Zerg, but, and there's the but, it's like you hit these big bases and it forces itself to become a big long fight that's got the uptime for the players who like that stuff, but it's part of the gameplay loop. Is the opposite side is like we have these 1 minute cap time vehicle bases, these like Burgess Overlook or whatever on Indar. It's like that is where you fail. That's the complete opposite negative direction. It's like the Zerg goes to that, you can't even spawn in. There's no gameplay there. The Zerg, that's
Yeah, that's
just a
like-
stepping stone, a 1 minute delay on the Zerg. Right? It's
It's
Yeah.
like
the worst
diarrhea.
way of
Yeah, it's
going
like
about it.
diarrhea, and you're incontinent. Yeah.
Yeah.
But actually, about those vehicle bases, right? What's the point of having vehicle bases when the cap point is relatively small for vehicles, I would say, and it's only 1 minute, right? Because
Yeah.
normally, let's say a non-vehicle base or a normal base, there's a point to fight over. But what I normally see on a vehicle base is just 3 prowlers and 5 Sundays staying on it, just waiting to move to the next one. There is no
Right.
fight on the
There's no
base.
gameplay.
It's just a point in the
but-
middle of a field.
I might be wrong about this, but I think they were initially thought of like construction bases. and
Yeah,
They
could
were.
build,
They
the
thought
con-
of construction bases, yeah.
Okay,
And the
And
thing
then
is,
you shoot them
construction
out
became.
and win.
It's what construction became that sort of killed that. Is like the pain fields. Remember, 2016 was it when construction came out? There was a lot of gameplay around construction, and then the pain fields started coming in. The automated anti-infantry turrets with the AI aimbot
Oh,
stuff
man.
got buffed, and it was like, I don't want to play those anymore. And everybody sort of just went, yeah, we're not going to play with it anymore.
Yeah.
And so it became a dead space, whereas before it maybe wasn't. So these construction changes, maybe
That's
they do
right.
add some purpose to the vehicle bases. But I don't think anyone would disagree with me when I say there's just too many of them on Oshur. There's just too many of them.
yeah.
And it's like if you objectively say, like, I want to compare Oshur to Hossen, some players will catch you off guard, like Master Bob or whatever. He'll say, sure, Hossen's probably the best continent on the game. And I
Yes.
think that comes from a place of being the average fight. The quality of the average fight is really reliable. The bases are generally, no matter what base you pick, it's generally a decent fight. Whereas on Oshur, it's like feast or famine. You get some of these tower defenses, which is what I was talking about earlier with regards to the Zerg. The Zerg rolls through and it hits these tower defenses. You get the most fun fights I've had in like 7 years or so. It's like insanely good quality fights, but there's only 2 towers in the entire continent, and I think interlinks and tridents absolutely fail to deliver that.
Yes.
So I think
Yes.
maybe the first change, maybe the first port of call is, I think that the intention behind interlinks, which was like, we're going to reuse an existing asset, that's a goal to strive for. You have to do that. You're a smaller game studio. You've got this thing. You want to reuse it. That's just smart. That's
Efficiency,
just good
yeah.
business. That's efficient. But you can't then, once it's on live server, say, well, oops, it's just a spawn camp machine. This isn't really fun. You can't leave it as it is. So they need to address that. And the same with tridents. The problem with tridents, I guess I'm not giving you guys a chance to talk, sorry, but
Yeah.
it's tridents.
worry,
You could
that's
take
why
you could take a random number generator. I'm genuinely serious about this point, by the way. I think you could take a random number generator and just put your observer cam anywhere within a trident, and there would be bare minimum 5 crossfires just farming.
Yeah,
You
it's terrible.
cannot move in a trident. It's just, I think it really is the worst realization of the problem Planetside often has, where there's just too many uncontrolled sightlines. And it's like, it's most unfortunate because, like, whereas in normal bases you're just placing down pre-made assets, you can't really control the number of sightlines. They built tridents from the ground up in like 3D modeling software. They had every opportunity to be very careful about how many sightlines there were, how many crossfires there were, and I think they got it backwards. I think that's a bit unfortunate. I think tridents need to be.
It's
Just
also
remove
like
them. They just need to go. Sorry,
no,
they're just
I
bad.
honestly think you might be able to make them work if you remove where the points are, put the tridents in the middle, like, you know, kind of like a tech plant or so.
Yeah,
that's
and
where
have
the
the
people
defender spawns with the teleporters around
Exactly.
where the points are currently. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah,
that would be like 10 times better than these like sanitized, sterile things in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, like the spawn
And you have to
in the
deploy
middle.
the roof.
Yeah.
Think about that. You
Yeah,
have to
that's
attack him from the roof.
Yeah, it's like tridents themselves are, I think, like the perfect spawn trap creating device. Like, they just perfectly create spawn camps. I very rarely see a trident where you're not spawn camping something.
Honestly, I
It's
think
quite
the
insane.
interlinks are worse. I think interlinks are like the supreme spawn camp, and then close second there's like the
Tridents.
the trident, because the interlink does something really cruel. It gives you like potential ways to flank, like over the teleporters, but it like snatches it away, right? Like they always dangle it in front of you. Oh, if you just take the teleporter, go break the spawn lock, and then you take the teleporter, you get like hash live links by some like retard standing outside.
Yeah, it's running through the open. I think something has to be genuinely inside a facility for it to be viable. And I think the best example is interlinks are almost the 3-lane, but they fail. And I think the base that I don't think many people will argue with me against that does it really well is Genudyne Hydroponics on Amarish. It's like that base that's like it's built on a bridge, but you can have like 3 lanes. You can go to the left side of it, down the middle, or the right. It's like
it's the basic shooter loadout.
It's the basic like generic shooter FPS level, and it's just that starts a facility, and it works seamlessly. I don't get heshed on Genudyne. I don't really get frustrated when I die because the uptime is fast. It's a very compact base. You die, 7 seconds later, you're back to shooting people. It is everything that was enjoyable and good about the bailouts with hard spawns. So it's like you have ways to flank, and your downtime doesn't matter too much, and it just catches it in this capturable base that doesn't have the problems where it freezes the lattice. Genudyne Hydroponics is like the base to aspire to. And I guess if we're going to get into the topic of bases, I'll let you refute that first. Maybe you disagree with me, or maybe you want to name bases you really love. So why don't we do that, and then I want to get into like base design in general, perhaps.
I mean, one thing first off, I think that we really shouldn't gloss over is the downtime part, right?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get into, is the like downtime and pace.
Yeah,
because frustration in the game.
Yeah, because it's like, right, to put this into perspective, right? Yeah, you play Battlefield and you die, like especially the modern ones, because they have this like, you know, you die and then you get zoomed out and look at this huge map screen, and then you can click on one of your buddies or on a point, and then it zooms you back in. And even let's say it would take 20 seconds or like 40 seconds to do all of that, which it doesn't. It's quicker, right? But let's say it's a 40-second cooldown. It would still feel 10 times better than Planetside, because you get the illusion, you get the like, you know,
the feeling of it being quick, and it's the experience is all that matters, right?
It zooms you out, and it goes like, you know, it depersonifies you from your character. It like zooms you out, and it's like, oh, and now you're back in, you know, okay, sure, you know. And in Planetside, it's the exact opposite. You die, you look at the motherfucker that killed you for like 20 seconds, and then you look at the map, and then you're like, oh man, I just spent 10 minutes, like 20 seconds or 30 seconds walking there. I guess I'll do it all again. Then you click the map. Exactly.
Yeah,
you click the map.
I'll jump in here. I kind of want to jump in here. So I think the reason the Battlefield 1 feels so buttery smooth, so good, is I think the one you make about like the camera zooming out and zooming in and that stuff in the divorce, that's really UX stuff. That's like polish, and that's really nice. I really agree. That's good. That is part of the smooth experience. But I think Battlefield really benefits from you spawn on your squad mate. Your squad mate is going to be in the action. So really the second you spawn, you're probably in the action again, right? The downtime is near zero. And so when you say it, I think you could turn it to 40 seconds. And it would still work. I kind of disagree. I think as it is, where Battlefield has it, it's like you die, and then 3 seconds later, the nice UX thing, and then you're on your buddy. You don't need to run from a spawn room to get back to the fight. You spawn in, you're in the fight.
I phrased it kind of poorly. Yeah, I think but like it would still be better than Planetside.
Look, I wanted to make a response to your character when you were talking about the efficiency of, let's say, right, about the tridents and about the current base design and everything, and like existing bases. I think much more can be done by blocking off windows, blocking off certain parts of the map. Right now you see on Nexus, you see powerhouse buildings with a blocked off big stairs and small stairs, right? Yeah, you already have those buildings. Now the game is plagued with a lot of problems. Classes, well, we talked about the classes, talked about the map. We got Character on to talk more about the development side of the game. There are a lot of problems that the devs can put their time in, but every time they try and reinvent the wheel with base design and vehicle changes, right? The Dalton, the ESF, everything. They change a whole lot to try and make it better. But why don't you just take the existing bases, shuffle the buildings around a bit to create different ones, maybe block off a window here or there, and that makes it a lot more interesting, takes away, gives you more time to actually work out the fundamental problems with the game and give the players new experiences. So it's a plus on all sides, in my opinion. And then that's just plain better. Yeah.
I 100% agree with you. I'm going to make a bigger point, which is I think that's happened in the past. And when you say reinventing the wheel, I believe they are reinventing the wheel. So I think Nexus is like the original developers learned from making Indar, making Amrish, making Esamir, and Nexus was the crystallization of where they were like, what works well is if you can put the Sundee underneath the base, you avoid edge ground, and if you have these building layouts in specific ways, you can. Yeah. I think the bases on Nexus are.
I like them.
I like them.
I like them. They're some of the best bases in the entire game. Yeah. Maybe that's slightly biased. Maybe it's like we're not experiencing it from being 90% overpop like you would be on live server, right? But I genuinely believe that like the lessons learned with the bases in Nexus are really present, and that's exactly what Thel wants, where it's like they found ways to use the modular assets and still improve it and make it better. And Hossen as well does this. It's like a lot of the bases, your Sundee goes underneath the base, like the construction site beta, zeta, theta, the 9 million of them, right? But all of them are really nice because you
placeholders, right?
Inside, you take your Sundee inside the base. And then it's part of the flow, and you spawn in, and you're almost instantly to fighting people. Yeah. So that's part of why Hossen is so enjoyable. Is a lot of the bases are quite careful about.
It's like artificial Sundee garages,
and you can also add to ground because you have trees that block the lock-ons, which is really nice.
That's but I feel like the wheel is being rediscovered, relearned on the newer development team. As people sort of psyched out, because you look at the bases on Esamir, the Amirish Biolab Rework, and some of the bases we get on Oshur. It's like they're starting to learn it with like but they've not caught it like Nexus caught it, like Hossen.
Yeah, but the thing is, Nexus is old. The thing,
but you can see the old development team where they learned it, and the current one is learning the same lessons.
The thing I don't understand. Yeah, okay, the bases.
Good bases on Oshur, but then
the latter
instead of making them the front line, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
I really love the bases on Oshur. They're just too far away. You don't fight them enough, and there's not enough of them for it to sustain itself.
Yeah.
I think Oshur, unironically, So I know Thel wants to jump in. Oshur has the potential to be the best continent in the game by far and wide. Just I feel like the lack of bases and the position of the bases where they are, where you barely ever see them, is the biggest problem. I think if they could make Oshur the continent where you had the same quality of bases as you have now, because most of them are standout, really good bases, and you just had more of them everywhere, it would be peak Planetside almost.
I don't know,
air players love
only
Oshur.
for us.
Only maybe not for ground vehicle players because there's not much space to flank. There's a bit of a problem for the ground vehicle guys, but
it's also too open. Like
it's way too open.
But I genuinely believe that Oshur has a lot of potential and that they are learning the base design lessons slowly. And we just need to see Oshur to be good. We just need more bases. It just needs more infantry fights.
Yeah, but the problem is
the vehicle construction base.
It just shouldn't suck. That's what you're saying.
Look, the problem is they are learning it slowly. This game has been out for almost 10 years, and as you can see with Nexus, right, as we just talked about, we all three enjoy Nexus very much. So the lessons have been learned years ago, right? This was made for 2013 or so. Yeah, I know. But the current devs can look at it, man. And the thing is, they made Desolation, man, while Nexus was laying in the fucking shelf, okay? Yeah. And I can't stress it enough, man. Dude, honestly, man, I get why all the air people hate Esamir because it's flat and you can get ground to air and flagged a lot. Yeah. So in that respect, it's a terrible continent. But, man, I loved the infantry, Hossen and Esamir. Maybe I put Esamir above Hossen back in the day when I was only playing infantry, man. Dude.
But part of that was the Bioless hard spawns, right?
I loved Esamir, man. And they killed all my babies, dude. They killed Isa South. They killed northern base. I don't know, next to what is now the fucking zone.
Mani Tower was.
Mani Tower was great, dude. Yeah, and then your Snowshear.
Like the other side.
Chamber episode 2 cell aneurysm.
Yeah, but honestly, man, dude, Snowshear have been some of my best moments while not doing drunk ops with X-Stick and Met-K, dude. Snowshear. And also, as you said previously, Character, about Zergs, right? Snowshear was the base, in my opinion, to stop a Zerg, right? Because every time Snowshear came, and it was, let's say, 80% Zerg Russ, right? I'm playing NC, and then if VS is defending Snowshear, I was like to the homies, guys, let's go! VS defense on Snowshear, go, 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 go! Right, we all look, and then we defend that base, right, with like 30%, and it's so an amazing.
And then your friendlies would redeploy in because
dude,
and it became an insanely good fight, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna make the point. There's something similar still, which is you see it on Indar excavation site, right? That the fight between Quartz Ridge and Indar excavation, it bounces around, and Indar X I think is a lot better than Quartz Ridge. Quartz Ridge
it's
fails
ways better.
In miles, a million. Quartz Ridge is almost like the base you point to when you say making a base bigger doesn't make it better for big fights.
Yeah, because you have to walk to the point, man. Then you get ban sheet. You have to do it again, dude. Yeah.
But it's almost Indar excavation site.
Indar X is great.
And I'm like, all my friends, I'm like, yo, come
same
on,
dude. Yes.
Get on
yes.
Yes. And I agree with you.
Mobility scooter off the landing pad.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're instantly. Serious point. Let's talk about that. Right? It's like part of why Indar excavation is so enjoyable is the defenders have that big advantage. They drag the fight out. It gets the equal pop, but also the downtime's really low because you spawn in. You run on the landing pad and you're on the point. There's none of that friction like with a containment site where you run for 5 minutes after you die.
Dude.
Like if I die on a containment site, I want to log off. If I die in excavation,
I want to play.
It's nothing. It's nothing.
I want to play, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Deep Daybreak. Okay, guys, we want to play the game. Isn't that enough for you to just, That's it. We want to play, but man.
Yeah, I'm always getting dragged into talking about it as a player instead of doing the analysis. But I agree, and I want to talk. Let's talk about containment sites because there's some changes
before we do
containment sites. Okay. Before we do, sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, the pace thing. You wanted to talk properly about the pace thing.
Let's talk about a sponsor.
Well, because I think the main issue is like the base design part is like. I don't know, maybe that's just me being incredibly black-pilled, right? But I'm looking at it and, man, it's really hit or miss. Like, I don't think they will learn the lesson in time to make a substantial change, unless they actually kind of revive, like, the game and there's new influx of people coming in and whatnot.
No.
And I think that can only happen if they...
this is the base problems, but the small problems, the frustration, the pace.
The pace and also, and this is really what I kind of wanna don't wanna spoil it not too much, but remember what we talked about about the outfits, etc. I would love to end on that note because I think that is like the one thing to take away from this.
Yeah, sorry, I just before that I want to cut in and properly talk about the pace thing maybe a bit more.
Yeah, go ahead.
Analysis-wise is part of why I think the things that are frustrating are so severely frustrating is they break the pace. So when I'm playing, and this comes from, I've played shotgun characters quite a lot lately for obvious reasons. They're completely broken, but we also did it before the rework. I think they were perfectly strong before the rework too, and the 1 KPM guys, we had a shotgun outfit even. When you're playing shotguns, if you die to Hesh, you don't really care. You just spawn in an ambusher and you're back in the fight. If you die to a max, you don't care. In fact, you run at the max. You're like, okay, there's a max there. There's probably an engineer. I'm going to run past the max's shotgun 4 guys. I don't care if I die because the pace is so fast on that. Whereas when you're playing a slower pace thing like the LMG where you don't want like a 2 KD heavy moment, you want a kill streak. That's what's fun. Then dying to the force multiplier is really frustrating. And I almost think the devs, instead of going the direction they went, and I suppose we want to talk about skill compression, right? Where it's like a lot of players find dying to skilled players frustrating, but rather than removing skill, I think the better solution would have been to make the frustration smaller by having less downtime. So fixing the pace, I genuinely believe that fixing the pace of the game would do so much to improve it. And the devs know this. This is another one where the devs already know it. They haven't done it properly, but they know it. I'm going to say the pocket flash. Arguably one of the best things to ever happen to the game, and every time the merit system breaks, I can't play Planetside without my pocket flash. I just stop playing. The pocket flash was like meant to be a solution without having to rework every base in the game, without having to bring back towers or whatever. There was like, we give players a way to get back to the fight quicker, and it was the pocket flash. I think the pocket flash is beloved by all. I think it's really popular, and I think it's a very good thing. But the spawn beacons as well do the job kind of like spawning on your buddy in Battlefield, where it's like you click on you die, you click on the spawn beacon, and you're back in the fight. So spawn beacons are also a good one. And I think they're kind of doing that. Those what are they called? They're like temporary squads that are coming soon. TM. Huh?
Yeah, that's a good change.
The
What are they
garrison
doing?
squads or whatever. They're making a change where when you go into a hex, there's like a temporary squad inside the hex that you get put into. So like your solo players and your randoms get given a squad to play a beacon with. So I think it'll do a lot to increase the pace maybe
Yeah,
for a
that's
lot
great.
of players. As if
Yeah.
they're having
That's
the
a
beacon
very good
with.
change.
It's a very
I
good
like that.
change.
Now I
I
can
really
play
like
solo and not have to worry about putting a Sandy there. I can just
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's exactly
because
it. That's what they're trying to do.
ties into the problem with fights dying so quickly. If I'm a solo player and I want to fight, I want to play the game, right? Now, if I'm gonna bring a Sandy all the way from the previous base, and now since they removed all the bases from Esamir, I have to drive even a longer way, right?
Oh god, and driving the Sunday doesn't feel good.
And
either.
then, if you just get put in a squad, then you don't have to get a Sandy there, and you can just jump in the fight. So it's just
And
a
Plus, it
big
also,
improvement.
like, think about it. It also
This is a change.
kind of-
I want to tie this back into the earlier point I made. This is another change to tip the scale towards fight uptime and away from fights being killed. It's another way of starting fights almost that they're putting in. So the devs are definitely working on these issues. Maybe not quick enough, but they're small studios.
At least
so
they're looking in the right direction.
I don't want to be another guy just sucking their cock. But I think genuinely you have to give them some credit. In the community this podcast is aimed at, which is like the high skill, I think people are a bit too black-pilled, a bit too giving up on the devs. But I think there's some hope.
They don't.
How can you not? How can you not, right?
Dude,
How can you not?
I mean,
Yeah,
look
agree.
at the
I was
history.
in the same place. I was in the same place.
Look,
as you
I
guys,
mean,
so know what you mean.
it's the same. Honestly, and this is not the topic of the podcast, but it's the same with Halo, man. Like, how can you not be black-pilled at this point? If you're not black-pilled, then you're just naive. Like, we've all seen what the game has, what direction the game has taken, and I think if you're very optimistic about all these things that we just talked about, then you're just naive and believe anything you want to believe. And I think people need to look at reality. And yes, we shouldn't be outright toxic, right? Because that's not very nice. But I think being real and saying how it really is can be hard for people to hear. But I think that's the way to go about things. It's not about you as a person. It's about the decisions that have been made. And you can objectively rate them, so to speak.
I absolutely. So it's like
You shouldn't sugarcoat it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You should tell it how it is, and that's also, if you're honest about that, then the actual issues get addressed, and then people know, hey, this is what's going around in the community. This is what they want. And if you sugarcoat everything, then you don't really know. Like, then the devs don't know what we want, and then the game can't really go in the right direction. So that's
also
a reason to be real.
It, but like, think about it this way, character. No, like, sure, that's a really good change, but in the entire roadmap for this year, it's like the only good change.
the roadmap's a bit grim. Yeah,
I see, and so it's
underwater
like
combat. Oh god,
I see underwater combat. Despair.
Oh my goodness, dude!
I don't have much nice to say about underwater combat, so I'm gonna avoid that one.
We cannot talk about it and stay on YouTube, I think.
No.
No. Underwater combat is horrible.
Terrible for the game. Yeah.
But
so we want to. I suppose you guys and me separately, because I'm not a host on the podcast. I'm a guest, but on one side you want to criticize the devs, on the other you don't want to just swallow their cock for 24 hours and never.
But you have to reinforce
so there's a balance.
But we criticize them. We criticize them because we care about the game, right? We want the game to and them to do better, and that's why we criticize them.
Yeah, it comes from a place of passion.
Otherwise, we wouldn't make this podcast. We wouldn't waste our time, talking.
We would just quit the game.
Yeah,
All
dude,
the
bye,
people on
Rel.
Reddit who are just like, you don't like this about the game? Okay, go play COD.
Go play CS:GO.
Go play CS:GO. Well, that's just it. A lot of people did.
Yeah.
That's why you have 4,000 players across 5 servers, right? Globally. That's why your game's fucking dead. Everybody went to go play COD.
It's so much worse than that. It's so much worse than that, right? Because, like, look, the reason we made this podcast, you use, like, the game dev vocabulary for it, and you say it's like skill compression, right? It's like skill compression.
That's a topic to come up. Let's talk about
exactly.
it in a bit,
and we'll introduce it this way. No, I famously coined the words that we live in a post FPS dystopia, right? The people already, the construction mains and whatnot, and I guess they just scored a major loss, but still, right? Like the map painters, the people that think this game is all about macro and not about individual decisions that add up to their macro, right? Those people have won, right? We live in a post FPS dystopia, and if you want to play the game like an FPS, you know.
Yeah, I was about to say it, dude.
and so it's like, and it's really the one thing that encapsulates it the most for me is the Newton, right? Because let's say you're Master Bob.
Oh, shit.
You're on a 8KD 4K PM transcendent fucking heavy session, yeah? Like, God is aiming your mouse. And then there's a Drifter LA with the Newton and concussion, not what is it? With impulse nades. Yeah, and he like glides across your screen with like Mach 10, like a Kovacs scenario. And he only track him perfectly. Yeah, you track him perfectly, and you still lose because he has like insane. He has like normal headshot multiplier and just
unstable ammo.
Unstable ammo.
Yeah. So
old cannons.
Yeah, old cannons. It is seriously though. Let's say this seriously. Unironically, the Newton is exactly the problem of the old cannons, and the reason the old cannons blew up. And everyone was using it within a single day was you could buy the cannons. Yeah. With the Newton, it takes months. So it's the exact same thing, but I think more and more of the player base will be forced to play the Newton because it's the only thing you can play against the Newton is Newton. You have to grind the Erexium first. So it's just as bad as the old Cadence. It just takes 3 months before it ruins the game to being unplayable. So the devs are on a ticking timer to nerf the Newton. There is nothing you can say to say this gun is okay as it is. It's just indefensible. But sorry, you go first.
I think these things, right? If you look at it from a game dev perspective, the Newton, the Canis, some like these kind of changes, these changes get implemented because the devs develop the game and they don't play it anymore. And you could see it. Like I bring this point up time and time again, right? When Bastions got introduced on the test server.
Oh no.
You saw Kato. I mean, yeah, he's long gone from Daybreak, but you saw him, shoot the hard points on the Bastion. He didn't know how to reverse maneuver, so he just like did this figure 8 infinity sign thing, and then he was shooting it with a Banshee, and then he didn't know how to select his secondary gun on his Mosquito. And yeah, not everyone at Daybreak is this bad, but I think when it comes to these things like the Canis and the Newton, you need people, the devs need to ask competent people who've played the game for a long time about these kinds of changes. You can't just think it's okay to put a weapon in the game that basically has a bigger hitbox box, right? It's not.
But let me drag you into a very dark place now. I will drag you in a very, very dark place. Man. Let's just say that, right? We don't know because we actually don't know if they played a game or whatnot. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt.
But come on, if they would know, they wouldn't do it.
No, but wait. You have watch this, okay?
Oh.
So what if that's intentional? What if they think that you shouldn't be able to win against the Newton? What if the shotgun changes are designed, to equate the battlefield between the farmers and the ordinary player? What if that is intentional?
Yeah,
right? What can tell us more about that?
What if I think you shouldn't play the game to begin with? Hey, Daybreak, what are you gonna do? Yeah.
But no. Let character.
We pay you.
It's so dark.
This discussion is this is the topic of skill compression, and I think I think the devs are genuinely, and I think this is misguided. Thing. This is the one where it's like, on the other ones, I say they're moving in the right macro direction, but this is a macro direction I firmly disagree with. I think you can't not agree. You can't argue against the fact that there has been an active effort over time to compress skill in Planetside.
Yeah.
And I know where it comes from. I'll tell you the reasoning. The reasoning is they say games like CS:GO, League, whatever, you know, you have matchmaking. COD. Well, let me be a bit better about the examples. Like games like COD or whatever, Battlefield. Not Battlefield. Sorry, I'm an idiot. COD has matchmaking, active matchmaking. So you can't have bad players and good ones in the same lobby, theoretically, right?
Yeah.
And so they say in Planetside we do, and we can't make the game matchmaking. So we'll just remove skill, but not completely. They don't want to remove it completely, but I think the direction itself is flawed. If you look at the most popular and successful games in the world, they strike on the most fundamental, most effective and powerful long-term retention and gameplay feedback loop there is in existence. It ties into human nature, and it's like the grind for skill and self-improvement. It's like League of Legends, CS:GO, Apex, I'm sure there's countless others, but it's everything. Like the moment you log in, you're shown the pro players. It's like, this is what you aspire to, and every time you play, you might not even enjoy League of Legends, but you play it anyway to grind your rank, right? I did that for years. I hated the game, and I still played because I was just like addicted to improving.
Like we do with Planetside.
Yeah, and Planetside does have that, right? And the payoff is huge, but they're removing it. I think that's very, very wrong. I think that's very wrong. And you know, they say, I kind of mentioned it before, but if players are frustrated because they're dying to skilled players, don't remove skill, remove the frustration. And the frustration stems from the downtime. That's why like your shotgun shitter like ODST loved the game. He fucking loved it, and this is before the shotguns got the buff, right? He didn't care if he died to a skilled player because he respawned, and 7 seconds later he was running at you with an ambusher. But if I'm a bad player in a medic and I spend 2 minutes taking a Valkyrie to a base because there's no fight, so I create one, I drive my Sunder up, and then Koops comes along and he just fucking deletes me, then I'm frustrated because it's the downtime. The downtime is too much.
But think about it this way as well. No, think about it this way as well. So you have like the pace issue, right? And you also have that there's like in normal game, like League of, you know, these competitive focused games, you actually have you have an like the pro player gets idealized, right? Whereas in Planetside, if you're like a IKD individual and you're like blasting the shit out of people,
you abuse the game.
Toxic, you're ruining the new player experience, whatnot, you know, and I think, right, this is also where the skill compression comes from, right? If I really have to think about the time in T, right? Because what T fundamentally was, right, is we were probably the most stacked outfit in the history of the game, across time and space.
Say that. Yeah, I will say that.
Like probably like across time and space. Like it will never happen again. And there was it was just unstoppable.
It was insane. It was insane.
Yeah, I'll make the point.
Unbelievable.
I'll try and round it off and explain, because you guys have the feeling, and I know, I agree with you. I know what you're saying is true, but you know that from feeling. I'm going to put it into like objective terms, which is like, the game has this asymmetric balance, so it's like if you want to be playing optimally, like a Zerg,
people don't really know what it is, right? Like,
so it's like, okay, sure.
T or what?
No. So T was like a big stack out of like a lot of you know, skilled players banding together, and it was like in not only just good infantry, it was in every domain.
Good tankers. Good
we could do like ops. We could do ops and have a platoon, and we could do whatever we wanted. We there's a video on Dogpiece channel where we like go across the entire map. We cap like in a straight line to a like 96v96 biolab, like SVS, and CNTR are fighting at that biolab, and we steal the cap
with like 12%.
Right? With 12% population, like we killed like hundreds of players and just grab the cap, and so it's like
that is what you want to idolize. That is because not only is it just like you idolize skill players, but that is the perfect gameplay plan. So the optimum gameplay done in a healthy way, as opposed to a Zerg, which is like a bit unhealthy. This is the healthy version of it.
But character, the community hated us for it, right?
Dude,
the community
it was insane, dude. Reddit was insane, man. There was so much hate and so much outcry. These guys, like, it was lovely, man. I loved every second of it. I went to Reddit.
But look, we loved it. But as a game dev,
but people hated it. And the devs too, probably.
It's a demonstration, perhaps, that having everything all at once is maybe not so fun for the guys. Because what it is, and I'm going to try
maybe not so fun.
I want to go back to the point earlier where it's like you guys had the experience, and I was in T as well for a short while.
Yeah.
I played ops with you and stuff. Oh, I think 2 seasons of Outfit Wars.
Yeah, you were in there a bit.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was like we all experienced it, and we can say, you know, this was we were unstoppable or whatever, right? Then the explanation for why objectively is, you know, and this is, I said earlier why Zergs are kind of unstoppable and why they create the most fights is when you have like asymmetric balance. It's like the Thunderer gets beaten by the Vanguard, or you know, it's like the Liberator beats the MBT, and it's like enough ESFs beat the Liberator, or the anti-air beats the ESFs. Like everything has its own counter. If you bring everything, the only counter is either that they bring more numbers, or they also bring everything with more skill.
Yeah.
And if you say that, like, you can quantitatively analyze this, you can do it like a numeric approach to it. It's like Zerg score, perhaps, is the term. Where it's like you take like the number of players multiplied by the average skill of the player, and it's like that is like your primitive modeling. It's not a perfect model by any means, but it's like you can say if I took 3 EPG. Right, they have X number of players and Y level of skill, and I put them against T, which had like X number of players but way more skill. T wins; they have a higher Zerg score, for example, right?
It's also that, like, in a way, T represents like a singularity, right? Because they are infinite Zerg score, right? There was no like
you vacuum all of the best players right into one place.
Exactly.
It was insane.
So I think Outfit Wars as it is now, where it's taken off the live server, you're still showcasing that like optimum playstyle, but it's done in a more healthy manner, just in the same way that like smurfing in League is unhealthy, but LCS is fun to watch for the shitters. Is you say this is the optimum way to play the game, but you can watch people play it optimally without them stomping you on the live server where you're having fun with your buddies.
But you could do this on live as well, right? Like, so
I mean, that's what happened, though. That's why everybody hated T. It was Outfit Wars Season 1 and 2 and 3 was live server, and I think Season 4, being on Nexus, it isolates the like lane search from being on the live server.
I agree, but think about it this way. Let's say the game is in a healthier state and shotguns, it's, you know, all of that, and you would actually put an upper limit on how many people can join an outfit. Like, let's say it's 100 people or so.
Yeah, so
and then
I suppose I know.
This is like the solution. Yeah, this would be, for example, because right now, if you play like T, which is like, you know, the optimal way in every optimal domain, right? What happens is that you break the game, right? But let's say that that's advertised. Instead of people thinking of it like, you know, you just bought yourself an unfair DLC that nobody else can buy or something like this, you give people a road, right? You say like, look, you know, you can be like these guys, put in the time, you know, if you want, because think about it. Think about the cumulative hours that team members would have, right? It must have been actual, like, multiple centuries worth of experience. Yeah. Right. And so it's like, they should be able to do that, right? It's just shitty that the game fails to tell you, look, if you put yourself to it, you can do it. Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Look, let's say...
I think the seeding ground, right?
Another problem. What you say, Schmidi, is where, at least that's what I think you meant, right? The reason everything got into one team and everyone hated us is because Outfit Wars was too big, and it was too late into the game where there weren't enough outfits to support it, basically.
Yes.
And then what goes on? It's not necessarily about stacking, and I've said this many times. It's more that you have different kinds of people and personalities in the game, and people connect with similarly minded people. And I'm not against like personally against the Zerg Rust people or anything, but I don't think my playstyle and their playstyle would mesh well together. My playstyle meshes well with Met K players, or maybe Bling, or you know, the people that have put time in the game, know how the game works, and they like it works differently, and that's why they band together. And also because you can't, right? Because Outfit Wars is such a big team size, you can't have a Bling team and a T team and a Hydra team and a DR all being in different teams and having competitive matches, because you need 48 people, and that's why they all band together, and it creates this one big stack fit to which all the, let's say, lesser gifted players look very negatively to us. Yeah, and that's also a problem.
What I would say, right, is that like you can understand like the amount of like skillful players. You know, like imagine like a bell curve population, like, you know, and so
that's it.
Most people are in the middle, in the center, you know.
Well, I'm going to disagree. I'm going to say most people are in the bottom.
Yeah, true. The bell curve works differently in Planetside.
It's
true.
Skewed.
Yeah,
that's true. But like, just conceptually, and so that means that, you know, team members are basically like the top 1%. And if you have a game where there's only like, you know, 4,000, or like maybe the top 0.1% or the top 1% of the server,
at least back then. Now it's a bit maybe different, but back then it was.
How many people play on Cobalt? Think about it. How many people think of, like, you know, it's like 400, and 1% of that is
600, 700. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, 1% is
right. And it's like that's where you end up, right? It's like, and so for me, it's really like the issue again is that the reason T happened in the first place is that there just isn't enough people playing the game. Let's say the game was in a healthy state, and you actually give people,
so I suppose the point you're making is if the top X% compete, well, when the player base is so small, the top X only makes one team. So maybe for the format, make it smaller sized. Yeah, that's what you're saying.
Or not the format. No. I mean on live, right? Because the thing is like,
okay, sure, as well.
I would love to see that these huge dead outfits like Zerg and stuff, they kind of get broken up. 100 player cap, and then you make a monthly cycle where you promote different outfits. They're based on their stats. Like you have for like, perfection.
We talked about I think they've already kind of done that. It's like when your outfit wins in the Outfit Wars matches, you get the like in Sanctuary, you get the exposure, the statue. I think they need to do more of that. They need to do a bit more of that, but that's the sort of idea. Yeah. I just want to quickly tie in, because this was the point about like the most effective feedback loop being the self-improvement one. It's like, how do you, I suppose your point was built on that, which is like, we need to get more people from being in 3 EPG and Zerg Rust, because let's say Zerging genuinely, I think when you're brand new to the game, your first 4 weeks sitting in a Zerg is kind of cool. You're like, wow, there's so much stuff going on. Wow, we're capturing
look
bases.
At the organization.
Oh my god, look at all the explosions. But after 4 weeks, the novelty wears off, and you learn just enough to realize that what you're doing is retarded. So you have 4 weeks to get them into midfits, basically, right? Because I think midfit is like the seeding ground and the ladder towards like saying, this is the domain I enjoy, this is what I want to play the game for, or just the social aspect.
And also get a community, exactly.
A community, because if you look at like what happened with Bois, let's talk about that, right? Where there was the guy, have you seen the Discord screenshot where the guy's like, dude, I grinded 11 hours to practice for this, and then where is everybody? And he was just like, too bad, dude, I don't feel like it.
I don't feel like putting in 30 minutes of work.
Let's explain it to people. Let's explain to people that don't know. So Zealous. So Zealous, you know, the leader of the Bois, he signed his outfit out for Outfit Wars, and he got people to play and whatnot, right? And he played 2 matches, and then the third one he just said, "Nah, I'd much rather do live ops. Fuck Outfit Wars." And then you had people like, you know, actually say like, "No, I put like time into this and made free, and I
took a day off work. That was the sad one, but it was everyone kind of knew this was coming, because Zealous said beforehand, he was like, we're just not going to play against a 2KD team. We're just not going to play against 2KD players. It's like, dude, if you don't want to lose, don't sign up. I think the devs need to. There needs to be a punishment. There needs to be consequences for this shit.
There can be multiple like moral, like, you know, we can talk about like what it means to like, you know, all like how your competitive spirit is and shit like this, but you know, ultimately the opinions will diverge in this, and I don't think that there should be different or divergent opinions on this. What Zealous did is that he betrayed his community fundamentally. He made people sign up, and then he like basically like pushed them over the cliff when he didn't feel like it.
You're like fucking Simba.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like that that is just unacceptable.
Yeah.
Like straight out, and there's no different opinion on this. Everybody who tells me like, oh, but I'm a voice member,
Yeah, you got fucked by your leader.
Out of your mouth.
Yeah,
exactly. That's not. It's just not okay.
And I would say I need to go in like 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, sorry.
And I wouldn't want to make no, it's okay. I wouldn't want to make it any longer as well. But to end on a positive note here, about Outfit Wars, what I think 1 versus 4 did is really nice, because I can't talk for everyone, of course, but TFDN to me is like this Zergfit, like, I don't know, Zergras or Reborn or anything, maybe a bit less Zergy, but still
like
very bad players.
Kind of like Jimsy.
Yeah, exactly. And some of those players were like, hey, we want to play Outfit Wars, we want to try, we want to put effort into this. And maybe these people don't want it, so we make our own thing. And they made it happen, and they rose to the occasion. And they might not be the best team in there, but that's okay, because they tried, right? They try, and they make it happen, and that's, I respect that.
Both teams.
Yeah.
They went to the game and both teams had fun.
Exactly, and I respect that, and that's, I just want to say that because that's the way to approach it.
I kind of want to jump on I've realized, just looking back, on the skill compression thing, I just sort of said that's what they're doing, but I didn't give evidence. So it's like, it was like the shotgun buffs. It was the unstable ammo experiment, which has been going on for years, where they're trying to make like aim matter less. It's also the nanoweave removal.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's also Rel's like
Bandana.
big argument for keeping the Bolt class not nerfed is he thinks that it's the class that someone new to the game can play and have fun.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's like, it is,
but the experienced player,
thing.
guess what he's gonna do?
The player is the problem with it. He's gonna play it too, and he's gonna ruin the server.
Yeah.
But no, it's the nanowave thing is, I think nanowave on its own is a discussion maybe, but it's the goal.
I mean, I don't think it is a discussion.
But realistically, the goal was skill compression. I don't think decreasing the TTK with the servers being terrible was a good idea. I think you could have had the exact same result by nerfing the headshot multiplier, or just making nanowave apply to the head too, or making it. And there was this. There was the suit slot argument. I don't want to straw man. That was a good argument about suit slot diversity and build diversity, whatever, right? It's kind of fun playing Grenade Bandolier nowadays, right? But you could have made nanowave inherent, and you talked about that, Schmidt. You said some classes get it inherently. Some classes get it inherently. I like that. And if the devs think, it makes skill too important, then okay, reduce the headshot multiplier when it's on as well.
No, but it's also the skill. I mean, what does it mean to make skill too important? Because the thing is that skill is like this is a fundamental philosophical problem in the game design, right? And it's sad that I mentioned this exactly when Thel has to cut us off here. Maybe we can continue later. But the fundamental issue with that is that you have people that spend exorbitant amounts of money and time in the game, right? And they stick around it for 10 years, and they learn the intricacies, and they get good at it, and they organize a private server where they make XVX tournaments, all free content, right? They promote your game. They play it, and they even buy
YouTube series, etc.
And there's people. Think about it. There's people that play on Jaeger, and they bought customizations on Jaeger.
They
right?
promote your game for free.
And
right?
you spit in the face of those people if you say, oh, well, your skill expression, I don't think that's fair for the new player. Why don't you sell that as a path, Why don't you give a...
Build on it.
We're going in circles, maybe, but I agree.
But it's still true, right?
It's true.
It needs to be said. It's important to be heard.
Yeah,
right?
and I want to make another point, which is, okay, if I think I'm going to equate genuinely here, depth of gameplay is skill expression. Gameplay fundamentally, where your choices matter, is the expression of skill. So when you're removing skill, you're removing gameplay. And how much can you really take away before the game becomes taking turns to pull force multipliers? Right? If you remove all of the skill expression, it's just my turn to pull the max until I die, and then it's your turn. It's really stupid, and it's kind of like that with how present force multipliers are. It's you have the choice. Either there's lots of them and they're not that important, or there's not that many of them and they're very powerful. And we go both ways, and it's broken.
And it's also not only force multipliers anymore, right? This is what pushed us over the edge.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's the shotgun.
Yeah.
It's everything. It's everything. Yeah.
Yes, and so it's like, that's what made us push over the edge, right? And I think with a rhetorical question, right? How much can you actually remove until you take turns at one another? I think with that one we should end this episode.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure, genuinely.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
We probably have you on for episode 2 because there's way too much to cover in that amount of time. Yeah, but so it's because of time constraints. I guess the ending is a little bit short, but it's just so it is, right? We'll do probably a second episode with character. The next episode will be weaker balance changes, right? A little bit to get out of the game design black pill box, right?
We didn't talk about the technical stuff either, huh?
Yeah, we didn't. So episode 2 is
different title, guys. Different title, and you still get the development side, but that's for our next one, so we can keep you hooked, guys, because we need the views. So subscribe.
You need to make the call out, guys. Make sure to like
and subscribe and tell your friends about the channel. This is Rel signing off.
Show your mum the video. Huh?
This is Rel signing off.
What does it do? Just click it, mom, please. Okay, no. Okay, well, with that, I hope you were properly entertained. This was a bit less scripted and more off the heart than the last episode, and I think it flowed pretty well.
Yeah.
I want to thank everybody for listening, especially for however long that was. I guess 1.5 hours at least.
I think longer.
Yeah, we're over 2 hours now. We're maybe a bit less with editing. But
and so thank you very much. Right, thank you very much, Character, for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah, bye, guys. Thank you.